am so excited that you've come to watch us with Meet My Mississippi authors and artists, and I am so thrilled. My name is Patricia Neely-Dorsey, and I'll be introducing you to our wonderful talent in the Mississippi Hills and across Mississippi. We have some wonderful literary talent in Mississippi, and we have one here today who's following in those footsteps. And like I said, I want to introduce them, but basically I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And your name is?
I'm Carl Purdon from Pontotoc, Mississippi.
Wonderful. I always like to start the interview with how I got to know everyone that I'll be interviewing. The first time that we met was at the Pontotoc Library,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we were doing some kind of, what was it? Just an author fair or something
it was
like that.
maybe like at the Bodok Festival, something like that.
Right. And you were kind of nervous because it was your first book, and I said, "Oh, just relax. You're the expert on what you're doing, so people don't know, if you do something wrong. So just enjoy it." And you said it calmed you down.
It did.
So.
It did.
Great.
I had actually been. They invited me, and I had kind of talked to myself into before I got there. It was probably a mistake. They really didn't mean to invite me. So I was thinking I'm going to get there and show up, and they're not going to have a place for me. I'm going to be in there.
And we had a wonderful time, didn't we?
We did, because
oh my goodness.
I saw you were, if anybody got within any kind of range of you were striking a conversation.
Absolutely.
And engaging and
then pouring them over to my friend.
And I thought that was amazing. So I came over and said, I don't know what I said to you, but you said something to me that calmed me down, and I actually enjoyed the rest of the day. So
I'm so happy.
So
and that's what I love about my book and this whole thing as being an author is meeting so many other wonderful authors. And we've had some other events that we've done together, probably 5 or 10, at least 5 or 10 other events. So I want the people to know from your mouth, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you do besides writing?
I grew up in southern Pontotoc County. It was a little community called Washington Community.
Okay.
And I went to Randolph for 2 years, or a year and a half, and then went to South Pontotoc. So that's where I finished out. So I was born and raised in Pontotoc, and I still live within about 15 miles of where I grew up. So
okay. And you graduated from?
Graduated from South Pontotoc, and then I went to ICC.
Okay.
And got an electronics degree. So
wonderful. And now what do you do as your other than author job?
I work for a systems integrator out of Sherman, and I do programming.
Wonderful, wonderful.
We do automation type work in factories and stuff.
Okay. So now tell me, how did this whole writing thing get started? Because, oh my goodness, you started off with one book, The Night Train, when I first met you, and now you have how many?
6.
Oh.
6.
I tell people, you could not put a gun to my head and let me crank out that many books. It's amazing to me.
Well, thank you. One of my first memories as a little boy was, and I know it was before I started school, because I was thinking I wish I knew how to write, because I had all these things in my head I wanted to write down. And somehow I knew I was going to write books someday.
Wow.
But I didn't actually start until I was 40.
That is amazing.
Past 40.
So when you were a young boy, what were the kind of things that were in your mind? The story, are they the same type of stories that you're writing now, or what was the main theme of what you were thinking about?
I don't know. As long as I can remember, I wrote poems.
Okay.
So I started out writing poems, really, really dumb poems.
Okay.
And I started wanting to turn them into stories. So I started trying to write poems that were stories, and then and I never was really good at that. But
we're in New Albany, and William Faulkner started out writing poetry.
And I actually went to see in elementary school. We visited William Faulkner's home, and that was a big influence, because that was, I guess, the first time that I thought somebody from Mississippi can write, can be successful.
Really well. I always put that quote on Facebook. Yes, we can read, and some of us can even write too.
And then John Grisham, of course, came along before I actually started out. I thought, well, that's 2. So, and they live close by, so well, maybe there's something in the water. So
wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so now tell us, how did you first start with the writing? When you said you were after 40, and then what happened?
Well,
you said, I'm going to sit down and start writing.
It was kind of funny that throughout my 20s, and a lot of the times I should have been dead, I guess, through some of the stupid stuff I did.
Same here.
But I actually thought, well, I'm supposed to write books, and I haven't written one yet, so nothing can happen to me.
Okay.
So, and I've written 6 now, so I'm cheating death every time I write one. So, but But I guess finally when I got 40ish, I thought, if I'm going to do this, I really need to get started.
Right.
So that's when I sat down and I was very impatient. So I thought, I can't start. I would write a poem that I finished right away. They just come to me and I'd finish them right away. And I thought, I can't sit down and write a novel that's going to take like 6 weeks or so. Little did I know. The first one was like 8 years that I probably spent on the night train, and it was probably 5 different novels before it became what I actually released. So
tell us a little about Night Train. What is the theme and what is it about?
It started out I was trying to write an adventure story.
Okay.
A little boy, 2 little boys have an adventure.
Okay.
And on a train.
Okay.
And as I started writing and I kept going through the different drafts of it, I realized, it didn't make sense. I had to have a reason why would they run away from home. So then I started exploring that. So what it became was the main character, J-Rod, and he's abused. So the opening scene is him being bullied at school.
Okay.
And so he's bullied by his classmates and kind of passive aggressively by the teacher by either, not allowing it. Sometimes she gets a dig in on him herself.
Okay.
But then at home, his father was very abusive.
Oh my!
And
that's very relevant now with all the bullying going on. So that would be a wonderful book in the schools.
And they've read it in a couple of the schools, and I've actually got to go.
Wonderful.
That's been that's the only time I'm not nervous when I'm speaking in public is when I'm speaking to the middle school kids, because they ask such great questions and they're engaged.
And engaged.
and 3 young men, and I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but it's on my website, I think. But they actually did a diorama in the book in the reading fair and won at the state level with the Night Train. And then they gave me their diorama, so I have that at home.
And that makes it just so worthwhile.
Oh, it does.
It just says, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. And the next book was what? Okay, first of all, let me ask you, how do you know when you're going to edit it again and redo it? Because one of these books, the Walter Pegger one, you said I did the whole draft or something. You put it on Facebook. And then you say I scrapped all of that. I'm like, are you serious?
I did it twice.
Oh, my goodness.
I was at, I guess, about 80,000 words.
I saw that when you posted it.
But I was, how you know when something's not working and you keep working at it.
I would have made that work. 80,000 words.
I tried, but it wasn't going any. And I've always told myself I'll never release one that I don't like, that I wouldn't want to read myself.
Because your name's on it,
And I woke up one morning. Usually Saturday mornings is when my ideas hit, because I wake up and I'm laying there and the idea hits. And the idea hit that this is not going to work, so you might as well start it. So I scrapped the book, and the only thing that survived was the opening scene.
I know.
Well, half of the opening scene.
You put that on Facebook, and I almost died. I said, give it to me. Let me just use it then. I could not believe that.
You wouldn't want your name on it. It was bad.
Goodness.
But and I even scrapped all the characters. The main character is the only one that survived. And so I wrote it again and got a little closer, but it still wasn't right. And I scrapped it again.
Oh my
and I think I got it right.
So how long did it take from the very first draft thing and then scrapping to the last one, the final version of it?
It took 2 years on it.
Oh my
and that was, I had been, since I released The Night Train, I had been releasing one a year.
Right,
so each spring I was releasing a book.
Right.
And this one took 2 years because I kept having to scrap it. So
I was trying to talk you out of it. Don't scrap it.
And I've got the sequel to it written,
and
my wife's reading it right now, going through it, and so I hope to release it this summer. And I'm already working on the I guess it's a follow up of that. So I guess it'll be a trilogy, but there's a direct link from it back to the Night Train. So it's kind of a circular thing. And,
wonderful.
They always say write series books, because series books is what everybody buys, and I don't know.
Right. I saw an interview once on one of the channels, and the author was saying that the characters kind of speak to them and tell them what they're going to say. They don't just make up what they're going to say for the characters. Sometimes it just comes to them, and the characters just kind of come to life. Is that?
That's exactly how I do. When I start writing my stories, the way I start is I come up with a character. And I start imagining myself as that character. and then they tell me what their story is.
Okay. Oh,
because
wow.
basically every story has been told 1,000 times.
Right.
It's just through your perspective. So
Oh, wow.
and I tell people that I've had people tell me before that a certain part of a book surprised them. They weren't expecting that, and I'm like, I wasn't either.
I love that.
It surprised me too.
So do the characters kind of tell you their background and what happened to him? Maybe like in the Night Train, how he was abused.
It did, and I kept trying to write other. In this 8 years of writing the Night Train, I started trying to write other books because I thought I'm not making this work, and it finally came to the point that I actually felt like this character, J-Rod, the little boy, needed his story told. So I've never known the ending of a book, so I basically violate all the rules of writing.
That's why people buy books. That's why people love authors, because it is so fascinating. I mean, people are like, how do they do that? Yeah. It's like being a magician almost. It's like I could not even fathom. Writing poetry is nothing like writing 300 or 400 pages in a book or something. I'm like, how do they do that? I'm just so fascinated with it.
I actually had a guy come to a book signing I had one time, and he said he didn't buy a book. He said that's the only reason he came. He just wanted to meet somebody that came up with that kind of stuff.
It's amazing to me. It's just amazing. Okay, Norton Road. Tell us a little about Norton Road.
Norton Road that's one of my favorites. That character was the most fun character to write, and it's about an eccentric old man he's kind of battling the world. He's alone. His wife has died. His target is a furniture factory that's built next door to him, and it's the dust and the noise, and it kind of disrupted his lifestyle, and so it's kind of has a funny side to it, and he's just one of these guys that gets on everybody's nerves.
Who comes up with your covers? Because that Norton Road, it's like the book pulls you in. That cover, it's like I have to find out what is in that house. Where is that? What is it just pulls you in.
The first one is I actually did my first cover myself, which is a big number. And when I saw it on Amazon, I couldn't get rid of it fast enough, so I rushed and I got somebody to do the first one.
And that is one of my very favorite covers. It just pops.
When I went to get Norton Road, she was busy, and it was going to be like a month or two backlog, and. So I found a company called Damanza, and I think they're actually out of Switzerland or somewhere like that. But they've done all my covers since then, they do really wonderful work.
And they all go together.
That's one of the things of using the same group each time is you kind of get your feel and your theme, and
absolutely, and they have definitely done that with yours.
So
tell us all 6 of the books. You said you have 6 now, right? Tell us the name of each one of those.
The first was The Night Train. That was my first. And I have a sequel to it, which was actually my 4th book, called Red Eyes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And that came from the students I was talking to in the schools, thinking, we want to know more about Farley, which was the hobo in there.
Okay.
So that's his story.
Okay.
Norton Road was my 2nd.
Okay.
Blinders is a 3rd. It's my wrongly convicted in prison, gets out, revenge in mind book. Temple's Ghost was my 5th one. And then the deconstruction of Walter Pigg is my 6th. And the next one will be the reconstruction of Walter Pigg. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. So what do you want people to get from your books as a body of work? What do you want to be known for as your writing style and your writing?
Strong characters.
Okay.
As a reader, which I don't get to read much anymore because you're so busy writing, but as a reader, when I would read a book and afterwards, months later or whatever, I would catch myself thinking about the character, wondering, what's so-and-so doing now?
Right. Oh,
and then realize they're a fictional character. That's what I aim for.
Because you bring it to life, and that's why the people come. They were like, well, what are they doing now? What are they going to do next?
And the other is if when you're reading a book and you come across a line that you think, I thought I was the only one who thought that.
Okay.
But that's the kind of thing you can't just sit down and, I'm going to write this sentence to be that, because it's different things to everybody.
People. Yes.
So kind of my style is like, I'll give an example, horror movies. I hate horror movies now, but when I was a kid, I loved horror movies, but they were different. They didn't show you them. You rarely ever saw the monster. You used your imagination.
Right.
So to me, I try to leave something to the reader's imagination.
Okay.
So if it's, there's, the readers especially have great imaginations. That's why they read.
And do people come up to you, the kids or whatever, say, well, they should do this or this should happen?
All the time.
They do that
yeah.
with my poems all the time. Like, you
yeah.
need to write this and put this in there.
Yeah, all the time.
So they do that. And do you use it? Because I do.
Sometimes.
Say,
I mean,
that.
sometimes, yeah.
I love the inspiration, especially like you said, from the middle school or whatever. I'm like, okay, I do need to write a poem about that.
And seeing the inspiration, especially from the young people. And I was speaking to an 11th grade class once, and that was tough.
Oh yeah.
And it was multiple classes, so it was all day I was speaking, and I was drinking. But there was one particular kid that came in, and I thought, okay, he's going to be the heckler. He's going to be the troublemaker. And it made me really nervous. But he didn't say anything during the whole thing. Afterwards, he came up to me and said he wanted to write, and kind of that kind of inspired him. And I thought, I misjudged that kid, just from that. And but it's when you can reach somebody or be maybe inspire somebody to do something different. That's what that's the payback. I guess that's
absolutely. I love that, and that's why I love going to the schools. That all day thing, I said I'm gonna stop doing that because it's like a Mack truck hits you. It's like that. Teachers need triple pay. Do you hear me? Because when they, it's just. Oh my goodness! All day long, it's so draining.
Yes.
Because you have to give yourself over and over and over and be on it. I mean, you have to really be on it at all times with them to engage them. So, yeah, that's wonderful. Now, tell us how we get your books, and you have them with you, of course, half the time, so they can get them from you. Yeah. But your website, we definitely want to know your website.
My website is carlpurdon.com.
Okay.
It has links to everywhere that you can get them, but you can get them at Amazon, of course.
Okay.
They're in paperback. They're in Kindle. You get them Barnes & Noble for the Nook, except Walter Piggott's in the Amazon Select. So in June, end of June, July, I'm going to add it to Barnes & Noble as well. And then a lot of the other Smashwords, Kobo, Diesel, a lot of places like that. But if you're local, you can get them in Pontotoc at the Pontotoc Museum.
Okay, wonderful.
And it's across from the courthouse, and they're actually signed copies, and you can get your book there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now tell us how you got published. How did you publish, and who did you publish with?
I'm self-published, and that was part of the self-publishing had not actually, or I had never heard of it when I was riding the night train. So that was part of my thing. Is I thought knowing my personality, for me to send a book off and go through the process of getting them telling me, well, not just that, is
tell you what to put in and take out.
Tell me what to put in and take out. And I thought,
that's why
I don't like that idea. And so actually when I finished the night train, I was thinking, I'm just going to ride it, and then my kids, grandkids can maybe find it in the attic someday. And, because I know I'll never really go, I'll send out a few queries, but I'll never go through. And then I realized this self-publishing thing was taking off. And so that was perfect for me.
It is.
Except for the marketing parts. I'm a terrible marketer. So
well, that's why you're here. Because we want people to know about your book. We want everybody to go ask about it. We want them to say, oh, what was that book on the Hill Country Network?
If I had half of your marketing skills.
Well, that's why we're friends. That's why we're friends. Stick with me, baby.
Every time I would go speak somewhere, you would already be there. And I think, okay, Patricia's here. So.
Yes, absolutely. So now, what did you self-publish through? A lot of people don't know this, and how do I do it? So now you're telling them. You go to what?
At the time, Amazon for the Kindle. They had Amazon KDP. That's their Kindle version, and then they had CreateSpace was their print book version. Absolutely. So you went through two different ways. They've combined that now, so now it's just KDP, and you can actually do one. You can do the Kindle version, which is the easier one to format, and they will automatically format it for paperback. I haven't done that, and I don't know if that's what I'll do this time, or if I'll do two separate, because you'd have to lose some control over it. So I'm not sure on that. But also something I'm excited about is Barnes & Noble actually finally will do print books
Right,
that
right.
they would do them before, but you could only buy them yourself. You
Right.
couldn't sell them through their store. So
Right.
they now will
Now they
do
do that.
print books that
Okay,
you can
okay.
sell, and they do hardcovers. So
Now tell me what you felt like. What was it like when you first saw your very first book in the box when it came and you opened it up? What was that like for
that is you can't.
you can't describe it, can you?
Remember when your child was born and it's almost it is it
because
really
you
is
see,
almost
like
that.
On Facebook, I always call my books the book baby,
Yeah,
because it is your baby, and you feel
it
like
is.
that about your.
You've got so much invested in it.
You do, and so.
But better than that, my first time that I saw in Barnes and Noble, and it was before we had our speaking thing that we were both in. I had no idea that we were, and I knew I was going to speak because they had invited me as part of that panel.
Right.
And I had no idea they were going to actually put my books there. And
Yes.
we were walking through the mall, and I was literally thinking as we were walking, someday I'm going to see my books in there. And I looked, and there was The Night Train in Norton Road sitting in the window.
And they in the window.
I don't know if I screamed, and people, I don't know, but we took a lot of pictures.
Yes, the first time I saw my first book, it was just like overwhelming. But when I saw Meet My Mississippi, I cried. I just burst out crying because I was like, gosh, that is so beautiful. That's exactly what I want people to feel and see when they see those pictures of Mississippi and how much I love it, because it is a work of heart. So.
And you write your children. You've got the children's book now, and that's catching kids at that. That's what's so important is to catch your kids at that age and get them to read. And I didn't come from a reading household. We didn't have books that I can remember in the house. My first reading, I guess, was in high school, checking some books out of the library and,
and
read
all
two
of
or
these
three.
books are basically kid friendly,
Pretty much.
Pretty much family friendly,
I don't use graphic language. Now there's some cussing in it, and
like William Faulkner or whatever.
There's certain words I don't use because I just because I like reading classics and that, and sometimes you show too much, and it's once you go down that road, I think you start the next time you have to grotesque yourself.
But you can be comfortable taking them to school and talking to a 4th and 5th grade class and say, this is about this, and you don't have to think, if they read it.
And Walter, the deconstruction of Walter Pig actually has no cuss words in it at all.
I love that.
And kind of what made me do that is I was speaking to a lady at one of the places, and she made the comment that, and not necessarily to me, but I heard her make the comment that a book she had just read, somebody else's book, that she said she went back and read it and marked out every curse word in it. And it did not, the book did not lose. No, she said the book didn't lose anything.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's a challenge because it's easier to write, to use curse words and, to get a point across than it is to do it otherwise. And so I did that in Walter Pig. Now, fair warning, the sequel to Walter Pig is not. It has, and I kind of base it, Walter was the kind of character that didn't use that language, and that's what it's based on. So, it depends on your character. I think if you write a character that you need to be realistic, to a point.
So what is your favorite character again? I think you mentioned it.
My favorite character is Oscar Jones. Oscar Jones, Pap is his name he goes by in the book, and that's in Norton Road.
Okay.
And the way that started out is, before that book, I was trying to come up with a story because I had a character in my head that I kept waking up with, of an old man with no teeth and wearing shirtless with overalls with the gallus down on one side, and they were pulling his mobile home away, and he was angry and he picked up a dirt clod and threw at the truck. And now that scene's not in there, but it was that type of fighting back at that point that that just stuck with me. So I thought I've got to find a book for somebody like that. So he's that kind of character. It's just
we love your books, and everybody's get some wonderful feedback on your books. I see it on Facebook all the time, and it has been wonderful talking to you, and even more wonderful knowing you.
Well, thank you.
I'm so glad that we ran across each other, and we've got more books to come, I know. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to Meet My Mississippi, authors and artists. We have so many more to come. Please stay tuned. Love you.
It's inside me, girl, it's in the air. It's who I am through and through. It won't take long till it gets to you. It's everywhere.